Kayfabe Avenue.
Justifiably in a position that I'd rather not be in, but the cream rise to the top. Oh yeah.
All right. It's been a while. And ladies and gentlemen, heels and faces, casual wrestling fans, and all you smart monks. I'm Richie Moon,
And I'm Kayfabe AJ.
and welcome back to Kayfabe Avenue.
It has been a while, and it's like very bittersweet for me right now
Yeah.
because unfortunately we're gonna have to start the show to pay some respect to Bray Wyatt, who recently passed away. So let's start the show with a 10 bell salute. So last night, well, probably around the afternoon, I want to say probably almost 24 hours since about now, news started filtering out all over the internet, unfortunately, telling us about Bray Wyatt's passing. And honestly, I think this blew the internet up. It was on a lot of news outlets. I'm surprised he even cared about wrestling.
Yeah.
Like, I know that going forward, I'm gonna where I was, how I took the reaction. I don't know about you, but my experience was like shock, pure shock. I was on X, formerly Twitter, going through my timeline, thinking, you know, let me see what's going on in the world. I scroll through, and the first thing I see is Triple H posted, and I'm gonna read the exact quote from the tweet. He says, "Just received a call from WWE Hall of Famer Mike Rotunda, who's Bray Wyatt's father, who informed us of the tragic news that a WWE family member for life, Wyndham Rotunda, also known as Bray Wyatt, unexpectedly passed earlier today. Our thoughts are with his family, and we ask that everyone respect their privacy at this time." So, not even halfway through that message, my jaw dropped. This this is the first time ever, like, I actually shed tears for this man. Like, it's like no bullshit, no faking. I was in shock. This is one of my favorite wrestlers of this generation. To me, it's like The Rock. It's like Austin. It's like we just lost Taker or something like that. God forbid. And we're coming off the heels of Terry Funk passing the day before. Rest in peace, Terry Funk. But it hits different. It hits different. Terry Funk was about 76, 78, around that age. So,
Yeah. He was before
he
our
has
generation.
he had a full life at this point. He's had people's career 10 times over. This feels like Bray Wyatt at 36, 36 years
36.
old, 4 kids. It's terrible. It's like we just lost a creative genius, regardless of how people feel about his booking, and we can get into that a little bit later. But
Yeah.
you know, we're never gonna
Honestly,
have another.
it, it was a shock. I was sitting on the couch, and then you had texted me, and I was like, "What?" Yeah, I
Yeah,
remember. We were all,
I felt like you were the only one I could share that moment with, and would probably feel my pain of hearing that news.
it was shock. I mean, we were together when the day that Edge came back was the same day that Kobe Bryant passed away, and I remember we were about to I think we were going to do something for the Royal Rumble or something like that. I remember we just all just kind of just sat there in disbelief, and it was pretty much the same thing. When you would text me with this news, I was not that I didn't believe you, but it was just like, no, like, we're constantly keeping up on wrestling news and everything. So I'm just searching. I'm like, no, this is, I heard about this. What? And then, yeah, I ended up running into the tweet from Hunter on X, and it really didn't hit me till I woke up today. That's when it really hit me. I was in shock last night. I didn't really process it, but today it really hit me, and waking up and seeing everybody from all the different wrestling promotions, sharing their grievance about Bray Wyatt, and it's sad. Like you said, he's only 36. He's only a year older than us. There's so much that he didn't get a chance to do. Even with his characters, he was about to make his comeback. Um,
I mean, let's
Sean
not get
Ross
it
Sapp,
wrong.
huh?
He was a champion, multiple time champion, but
Yeah,
it felt like we just got years stolen from us. It
yeah,
felt like
yeah,
we just like like if in my eyes this man could have went forever. You know,
yeah,
he's one of those
yeah,
people that you kind of immortalize as far as the level of creativity and the way they pulled you in. It wasn't just the segments and videos and vignettes and lights and the fiend mask and all this. It wasn't just that. It's the way this man could hold the mic and hold
and
your
tell stories.
attention.
Yeah,
The way
the
he
way you can
tells
tell stories.
stories, just it was captivating from like the moment
Right from the beginning.
yeah, because if we go all the way back, right? We go back to like Husky Harris. He didn't have the personality then, and let me not even say that because he was thrown into the Nexus kind of NXT thing, those weird
Yeah,
show, then the new Nexus. He didn't even get to debut in something that was original. It was
right,
a second
right,
version of a group from the first season of the show you're coming from.
right,
But
right, right.
I think you ask anyone who actually watched him in the ring, I think they used to call him freight train with a Ferrari engine, something like that. Or tank with a Ferrari engine. Like that's
Yeah,
what they used to call him. Super fast for his size, like the splash clothesline to on the turnbuckle. Who was having that much intensity at that size? Who could move across the ring like that?
yeah.
You know,
It was really sad. Sean Ross Sapp reported that you know he had COVID earlier this year, and it inflamed some prior health issues that he had. And unfortunately, yesterday he ended up having a heart attack, and that's how we ended up uh, losing him. I think I always thought that he was super creative, even from the Husky Harris days, because he brought it back full circle. Because when he would do when the Fiend character, when he would have, what were the matches called, the Nightmare, the Firehouse Funhouse, the Firehouse Funhouse matches, which is one of the best. You remember COVID lockdown mania? That was one of the best matches. That was one of the best cinematic matches ever that he had with John Cena. And he always he made you appreciate watching his work, bringing the stuff all the way back from Husky Harris and bringing it back from the cult leader Bray Wyatt to the Fiend to everything. Even in that match with John Cena, how he led John Cena down an unseen future with him being part of the NWO, him turning heel. That's what I always appreciated about Bray Wyatt. His storytelling he was years, and even other wrestlers said this. Chris Jericho said this, that he was always years ahead of everybody. Like with his storytelling, how he wanted to tell his stories and his
well,
characters and stuff like that. He
think
was
about it.
way above it.
Just his story, right? Just his storyline alone, the way he infused it all together. He was in NXT.
Mm,
He debuted in NXT as Bray Wyatt around uh I believe it was July of 2011, if not
mm-hmm.
July of 2012. Um, and his in-ring debut, because if I remember correctly, they had a couple like vignettes hyping his debut on NXT, but that's 2011, 2012. We're in 2023 right now, and
I'm looking
all
I'm looking
his
it up right now.
storylines all of his storylines
2010.
literally 2010 in NXT.
2010. Mm-hmm.
Look,
Husky Harris.
around yeah. So no, that's the original NXT where it was like game show. I'm talking about the re-debut as far as they changed NXT to an actual brand,
Oh, the
and then
real
he
NXT.
debuted the real
Okay.
NXT, the
Okay.
one the
Okay.
fans really appreciate.
Yeah.
But
Right. It was a game show before.
right, but he debuted that character around 2011. The
Hmm.
Husky Harris character was kind of short lived. Once the new Nexus kind of fell apart, they didn't have anything really to do with him. They brought him back to FCW, NXT, and
Hmm.
that's when they did the whole repackaging. He joined Harper, and they were kind of playing the background of his little vignettes that they'll play. But every storyline from that moment, he's been talking about the Fiend. He's been talking about Sister Abigail. He's been talking about those presents and those characters that he's gonna debut 10 years later. This is the genius we're talking about. A lot
Right.
of people, real diehard fans, not the casual fan, obviously, but diehard fans, they want longevity in storyline. They want things to pay off, and everything that he did eventually paid off. The only thing, unfortunately now, this new direction, the Uncle Howdy stuff, and we did not get to see any of that full potential of that change because, unfortunately
And
he
that,
got sick, injured, and
to me, that's what's the
it
saddest thing of it
happens.
all. This is a 36-year-old guy, and we all know in wrestling, you're not even in your prime at 36. Some guys don't hit their prime until they hit their 40s. He was a guy that was already, his character work was already there. I think with Bray Wyatt, I think his wrestling abilities was going to catch up to his character work as he moved further in his wrestling career. And that's what really sucks. He has so much potential, even prior to him coming back from the Uncle Howdy stuff before that, even with the Fiend stuff, I think we all agree the Fiend was short lived because the way that he was unfortunately booked. I think the Fiend could have went on, even though I always thought the Fiend was kind of had a lifespan, kind of like the Demon with Finn Balor, like you only bring him out once in a while. I feel like the Fiend, his lifespan was cut short due to his booking, but like you said, it was
You know
genius.
what was
He's been hinting at
my
that for years.
opinion, my, my opinion, the problem with the Fiend wasn't even the Fiend itself. It was who do you feed to the Fiend? Who can stand against the Fiend in the way they booked them? I think that
Well,
was the problem.
remember the match that he had with Seth Rollins at Hell in a Cell, right?
Who's gonna forget
And
that?
right, both of us being horror fans, it was that would have been a great match had that been the end of the scene. They told the story backwards. Because you shoot down Michael Myers, you shoot down Jason, he sits right up. They did the entire ending and then they booked it backwards. If that match would have happened later on in the Fiend, I think it would have been more acceptable. But it's just there were a lot of things wrong with it. The Fiend never needed to go for the championship. They told the story kind of backwards, and I just think Bray Wyatt himself, he didn't get a chance to really he didn't get a chance to tell the full story of the Firefly Funhouse and see how all these stories can kind of play out. But to answer your question, yeah, they didn't have the right people to go against the Fiend at first. It should have just been a pure revenge story. People that did him wrong as Bray Wyatt as a cult leader, he should have just went strictly after them. But once the Fiend debuted and they saw how that merch was flying off the shelves, they was like immediately make him champion. No matter, forget the story. The merch is selling off the walls. Get him into the championship picture. So there was a
and
lot of lost storylines because of that.
and that's the thing. And when people talk about, oh, they didn't book him right, a lot of their reasoning for not booking him right is because of the amount of titles that he didn't. And I feel
Right.
like his character was above titles at certain points.
Fact. Fact. It was.
Like there's people who need a title to prop them up to give them that little shine and luster, so people could be like, oh look, he's something about him. He's the champion. Obviously, something's good about him. With Bray,
Mm-hmm.
he didn't need a title. That title came
The cat.
long after the big
Right.
fame with his character. So
The character work was good enough. He didn't need the title.
it was definitely it just everything. The way he encapsulate horror and you know cult
I think right,
cultism,
and
like it was. I think
it was everything.
he was ahead of the game because he tapped into like the pop culture of kind of what was going on, people gravitating to. Everything he said in promos had double meanings, triple meanings, had little things
Hmm.
that were going to be hinted on down the line or fully explored down the line. So it was unique. But I think the biggest testament to Bray Wyatt in general is that I don't think anyone can argue is everyone he's been in the ring with has ended up being better off after Bray Wyatt.
Yeah,
The only person that you can argue that is maybe Seth Rollins because his character took a kind of a dive and then he had to rebuild himself. But
yeah.
every single person, especially during the Fiend era, he
That was the ongoing storyline. That
he
was the
made
through line
everyone,
to change.
yeah, he made every change people, he made everyone better. But just generally, I think he knew how to put people over. He knew how to take a
Hmm.
loss and still make it mean something. You know, I
Right.
think that's what's missing is like the art, the actual what Roman's trying to bring back now, the actual in ring theater of it all, the drawing people in through the matches, through the actual actions in the ring.
Yeah.
Storytelling in the ring. And I think before the tribal chief, no disrespect, before the tribal chief, Bray Wyatt was probably the best one doing it.
I mean, it's ironic because it was him debuting the tribal chief character coming in, with that SummerSlam and coming at the end of that Bray Wyatt and Fiend match and gaining the Universal Championship that really kicked off the tribal chief. Another thing that we unfortunately never got to see fully fleshed out because I think uh, I think the Fiend got in. Oh no, they killed the Fiend at the WrestleMania, and then
No,
brand switches and then COVID and all that stuff. But Bray Wyatt was the I guess you can say Bray Wyatt was kind of the catalyst for the tribal chief because he came back in. That's when he came. He had the denture.
yeah,
That's when the
because
tribal chief
Roman
debuted
lost the
against.
Universal title to
Mm-hmm.
Bray Wyatt, and then when Roman finally came back, he beat Bray Wyatt for the title. So you're right.
And we never got to see that. We never got to see that storyline play out because remember
Yeah.
when Alexa Bliss when he was running with Alexa Bliss, and then what I'm saying she passed him and she turned around and looked at him. There were so many things with Bray Wyatt, unfortunately, that we just never got to see finish because of injuries, COVID, brand switches. So, speaking of, what are some of your favorite Bray Wyatt matches?
Uh, Top of my mind, funny enough, is Bray Wyatt versus Daniel Bryan, Steel Cage.
That was a really good one.
That was probably one of the biggest pops I've ever seen him have.
Mm-hmm.
And Daniel Bryan was in the top of his prime at that point. He, you know, was just starting the Yes movement. Um he ended up having Daniel Bryan join the Wyatt family as like lapdog kind of situation, and Daniel
Mm-hmm.
Bryan breaking out that pop that those guys got. Yeah, I'll never forget that one. Other than that,
Remember when we went to Matter of Fact? This is a classic SmackDown. This is when the Undertaker was there. This is when Sami Zayn's always quietly, low key been over, but like he chokeslammed Sami Zayn, and at the end of SmackDown, after 205, they had just a special match just for the Fiend, and the Fiend came out and beat up uh, uh, his brother, who was Uncle Howdy, and oh my god, how can I forget other dude's name? Mr. Perfect son.
Curtis Axel,
Uh, Curtis
Michael
Axel, and he,
McGillicuddy.
yeah, Michael McGillicuddy. They had a handicap match, and the Fiend came out, and that was like they enticed us to stay after SmackDown after 205 Live
Yeah,
just for that Fiend
that's
match. And they
true.
said the Fiend is going to be here, so yeah, we got to see the Fiend, live in action, and
We had
that
to
entrance.
wait. That you know how long?
It was
Literally
like 2 hours.
more than that. More than that, bro. We had to wait remember they had put main event or whatever that show is before
Oh
SmackDown.
yeah, yeah,
So we
it
saw
was main
that
event
show,
SmackDown too.
SmackDown, 205 Live. By the time we hit 205 Live, we're like, where is the Fiend? And it was, yeah, you're right. The first debut of the Fiend in the Garden.
Yeah,
After a while,
yeah,
so yeah, and that's the thing. Like seeing it
that
on
was special.
TV and then being there live, getting to experience it. I think that's another reason why it hit me so hard because I've seen Bray Wyatt a couple of times live,
I
and
got goosebumps thinking about it.
seeing it live, everybody pulling out their cell phones. The way you see it on TV, it's just
It's
like
nothing
that.
compared.
That's not
I
faking.
feel I feel sorry for anybody that's a wrestling fan and never seen the Fiend come out live. It's an experience. I guess it must have been. I mean, we were watching wrestling then, like when the Undertaker came out and the lights came out, like that was, which sucks. They never really pulled the trigger on it, but I feel like that was always the intention to make the Fiend Bray Wyatt our, well, I guess kind of past our generation, but this generation's version of the Undertaker. But I know from being a small kid, seeing the Undertaker come out at the county center with the lights coming out, being an adult and seeing the Fiend come out with that entrance is it's very similar. I mean, I'm getting goosebumps now just thinking about it. The way the lights go out, the cell phone cameras come out, everybody's singing along. There was an aura that happened when the theme came out. So I really
and
wish that character could have had more legs on it.
and you bring up the Undertaker and how that made us feel back then as kids, and seeing that back then and comparing it to where we're at now. You know how crazy it is that what was it 6 months ago? Undertaker passed the torch, literally just passed the torch to this man on Raw.
Officially, yeah,
They had
yeah,
a
yeah.
secret, they had shared some words in a secret. Undertaker, whispered something that was just for them to. The fans knew, this is your
Yeah.
moment. This is, you know, hold it down, pretty much. Undertaker, obviously everyone knows that Taker's retired, and that moment was just like, it's your turn. You're back.
Right.
It's your turn, and is I'm kind of lost for words right now just thinking about it. Like we're
Yeah.
never gonna be
Right.
able to
Now it
do
was a special moment because Bray, he was gone for a long time. Everybody was there was so many things going on. Taker had finally been able to retire in front of everybody. He had passed the torch. Triple H had come into power. Everybody was feeling so confident because we know that Triple H, he's going to book the people that need to be booked right. Bray Wyatt was just
But
coming
not only
back. We
that,
would,
also give Bray the freedom. Like I feel like he's always had some type of freedom because they'll give Bray, this is kind of what we want you to say, and then Bray would
yeah.
do his own, version of it.
He he
So,
he, he polished it up, like they say in the heel show. We polished it up real quick.
but pretty much. So it's crazy. I'm shocked. I mean, we're only a few hours from it happening, but
Yeah,
I'm
you
even
know.
flustered
I
right
mean,
now. Like it made me lose my train of thought just stopping to think like this is really happening.
yeah, it sucks. It sucks because I feel like I mentioned earlier, I don't think Bray Wyatt had really hit his potential as far as in ring. I think the character work was, he could come out with a cult leader Bray Wyatt, theme Bray Wyatt, this kind of all rolled into one person kind of Bray Wyatt, the last version that we've seen him. But I think his in ring was about to really start matching the character work, and that's what really sucks. We there was so much potential and it's lost.
We were robbed. We were
We're robbed
robbed.
of it. You know what I'm saying? 36 years old. This is a young cat, man. Bray Wyatt was super young. Shout out to JoJo, his wife, and he had
And his
four
kids,
kids.
4 kids, man.
Everybody seemed to love.
His
Everybody
brother
seemed to love
Bo,
Bray Wyatt.
his father's still alive. Shout out to the family.
Yeah, the Rotunda family, right? Everybody
The
seemed to love him.
WWE is
Everybody,
actually a good thing to mention. The WWE is actually going to send all proceeds to Bray Wyatt merch. So all of that is going to go to the family. So I encourage everyone. I'm definitely going to take advantage of that.
yeah,
These will probably be the final run of shirts we'll have from them. I'm
right.
glad that I actually got to pick up one before anything happened because now they're gonna be super rare to find. But all the
Right.
proceeds are gonna go. So I encourage everybody who's listening, go to WWE shop and support Bray Wyatt. It's gonna go to his family. So he's leaving a legacy behind.
He's
It's
definitely
sad.
leaving a legacy. He actually had a video when he won the WWE Championship and talked about how he wanted his legacy. And his legacy was he always just wanted to give the people something new. He didn't want to come out there. He wasn't like knocking them, but he was just using them as an example. Like this is the time when Enzo and Cass on the WWE, they go out and they hit their lines, and it's popular. But everybody knows their lines. Everybody can say it back to them. He said, "I want to go out there and give the fans something new. I want them to like me, but I want them to always have to listen to me. You know what I'm saying? I don't ever want to come out there and they expect to know what's going to happen when Bray Wyatt comes on the screen. He always wants it to be a surprise. He always wants it to deliver. And, what I liked about him, he wasn't afraid to try things. I personally, the last feud he had with LA Knight, it didn't really get over with me. I think there was just a lot of the Uncle Howdy stuff. It didn't connect with me personally, but
But
I
look,
like
but
the
look
fact
at
that
LA
he
Knight now.
tried. Yeah.
Look
Let
at
me talk to you.
look at LA Knight now. Another person that just right after dealing with Bray is being touted as the next superstar. The
Yeah.
fans are behind them. And that's what I meant earlier about the fact that everyone ended up leaving a feud or a program with Bray Wyatt better off, regardless if the booking wasn't to people's standards or not. Like
Mhm.
it was a big impact. But let's put a pause on that. We're gonna come back with more talk about Bray Wyatt. We're gonna have a word from our sponsors.
Let's do it.
And we're back. I actually want to start our second half of the show with a promo that he cut a few months ago upon his return with this new phase of his character. And I feel like it really hit home for where Bray was at in his life and, kind of the struggle he was dealing with and also what the universe kind of meant to him. So let's hear this promo.
I don't know if y'all can read this on me, but I'm incredibly grateful, and I'm really, really nervous to be here. But I never thought this would happen. And this right here, this is just me, okay? Yeah, this is a version of me that I've never got to introduce to you guys before. This is just me being me, genuine me for the first time. And I just want to share with you, this past year in my life, I lost a lot of things. I lost my career. I love you too.
You hear like the emotion.
Mhm.
I lost my career. I lost my self-confidence. I lost two people who were very, very close to me.
Going to talk about Lee Carter or Brody Lee.
Got to a point where I thought that everything that I'd ever done here, otherwise, I thought it was all meaningless. Nothing I ever did has mattered to anyone. And I was wrong. I was wrong. Once I was done feeling sorry for myself, and I decided to go out in the world again and see people, there were people everywhere. They would say, "Thank you, Bray, man. When you coming back home?" And then every once in a while, there would be someone I would meet that's truly remarkable, and you know who you are. But these people, they would come to me. They would come to me and they would say, "Bray, I just wanted to thank you, man, because I was in a time of need and I lost people that were close to me. And I lost my self-confidence and I felt weak and I felt vulnerable. And in this weak state, I found your words, Bray. I found your words, and I just wanted to thank you, man. You saved my life, Bray. Truth is, I don't think about stuff like that.
He's not to the fans.
And the thing about that is that I can sit here right now today and I can look all of you in the eyes and I can say that you were there when I was weak, when I was vulnerable, when I was down. So I just wanted to say thank you. You all saved my life. You wouldn't let me alone. Every time I tried to run away and hide, you were there to find me. When I left things behind, you found them. You chased me. You are the reason.
You know, that has to be probably one of the most powerful promos he's cut, like, as recent, and it kind of summed up everything, man. The way he felt about, the fans, about his career. He was suffering through a lot of mental issues, lost Brody Lee, aka Luke Harper. He said he lost someone else. There was a lot of rumors online and stories coming out of, mental health issues and depression that he was going through. He came back, lost a lot of weight, he looked like he was finally turning that corner. So while it's devastating to hear that COVID and the heart issues was the reasoning, I would prefer that than to be, something like his depression or what he was going through. But
Yeah.
he said the fans pull him back. The fans, the appreciation. And I don't think there was a single scripted or bullshit part of that promo. And even if somebody back there gave him something, a piece of paper, hey, say this. No, that was Bray. That came straight from the heart.
No, that's a fact. He had a special connection with all his fans.
That was the difference between him and a lot of wrestlers trying. No knock on anyone else, but that was that emotion, the way he could tap into his personal, bring it out, bring it to story, connection. You feel me? You don't have to be the most athletic. You don't have to be the best looking on paper. You got to connect to the fans, and I think that was a gift that he had above everyone.
Yeah, even after, I remember I went to a live show in Miami in December, and that's when he was first making his rounds back. I don't know if he came back to TV quite yet back then. I think he did, but he did it was a house show, and it was against Jinder Mahal. And after his match, he took at least 15 to 20 minutes just walking around the ring, just signing autographs, taking pictures, talking to people. And even when you see clips of him online, he had a great connection with his fan base, because I think he knew that the scene persona, the cult leader persona, it touched people. As wrestling fans, this is a big part of our lives. So, and he knew that. So he always took the time to really talk to his fans and really connect with them. And that definitely made the difference. That's why people felt so connected to him and felt such a great pain when we heard the tragic news about him, no longer being with us.
Yeah. I think it was a lot of that, dwell in the darkness, but still kind of see the light in things that kind of attracted people.
Yeah.
And well, that's what attracted me to his character, to the way he spoke, But Brace had for the most part, if I can look back, I know in a few years, and we look at his body of work, what he's actually accomplished, he's had a great legacy in the WWE. Like, what pains me the most is like the potential for him and Bo Dallas to actually do something together that was meaningful as brothers on screen. I know, if anything, that's gonna that's probably killing, his
Yeah,
brother. The fact that
yeah,
he's gone, and whether they were together in storyline, you still had your brother there.
yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah.
They FCW, NXT, main roster, they still were in each other's orbit. You still had your real brother to lean on. It's like, like a Matt and Jeff, you
Mm-hmm.
know? So I know that's hard for him. I think if anything, the WWE should give Bo Dallas the opportunity to be showcased, tribute his brother, but also maybe reinvigorate his own career, if that's even a choice that he wants to do.
Yeah.
We don't know what the future of Bo Dallas is. I know a lot of what he was doing with WWE was hinging off of the storyline with Uncle Howdy and everything going on with Bray Wyatt. But,
Mm-hmm.
a few weeks from now, a few months from now down the line, I think if Bo Dallas ever comes back to the spotlight in front of camera, um, I think they should really give him the opportunity to kind of keep Bray Wyatt's legacy going a little bit. Not
I
be
don't.
overshadowed by it,
There's a there's a
create his
chance we
own
might see him
thing.
tonight.
I don't know. I mean,
There's a chance
it's
like
so
that.
soon.
The rumor is that everything they were going to do for SmackDown has been canceled. This is going to be basically a Bray Wyatt tribute show tonight.
And
So
that's
we might,
big.
yeah,
That's big because how many people have passed and they don't stop the show? I know
yeah,
the rumors have it that we're still gonna have the Io Sky defending her title, and we're still gonna have the Waller versus Mysterio match. But
mm,
the big segment that I heard that was cut today was the Jimmy Uso returns.
yeah,
So that's how big it is that they're willing, and that's how respectful we have to actually look at that side too of WWE, because people give WWE a lot of shit for their morals, but you just took the biggest storyline of the year off the show, so it doesn't take the spotlight off of what you're gonna do
yeah,
with to tribute Bray Wyatt, and that's a big thing. Honestly, I wouldn't even mind like it not having matches at this point. Like if they
yeah.
did like an Eddie Guerrero kind of tribute, like showcase his career,
I,
let people talk about him,
that's
because
the
Bray was a
that's the
very
direction I'm hoping to take in. I'm hoping to take the direction where people come out, they speak about them. You know, some of the wrestlers come out. You know, they just speak candidly how they feel. You have some of Bray Wyatt's closest friends. I heard Braun Strowman's going to be on the show tonight, even though he's injured. You know, you do that. You know, like I think a
yeah.
great example is when the Brody Lee show with AEW. You know, they did a great tribute show. You had the Dark Order wrestling. You had some of Brody Lee's favorite wrestlers wrestle that night, and it was just it was a tribute show. I think it's okay to put a pause to the storyline for right now and just this is a big loss. This is a settle. Terry Funk. Not to take anything away from Terry Funk, rest in power to Terry Funk. Like you said, Terry Funk wasn't wrestling anymore, even though he'd done 87 retirements and comeback. But we knew realistically, Terry Funk ain't coming out and wrestling.
Man,
This is a guy.
Terry Funk said, "Don't bury me in the cemetery, bury me in the ring."
Right. You know
He
what I'm
wants to go to
saying?
heaven in the ring.
In the ring. You know what I'm saying? Take him out with his boots. Bray Wyatt's the guy. He could have potentially been WWE champion again. He could have Universal champion, any a world heavyweight champion. And so it was
Hey,
just a shock.
storyline wise, it probably would have made the most sense for Bray Wyatt to end up beating Roman, getting that get back off of him. It's someone who's mystically built versus someone who's, you know, storyline built, character built.
Yeah.
I,
Yeah.
there's not many people who can go against Roman, stop this historic run, and it makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
Outside of Cody, like who can we really say can do that? And I feel like Bray was that void.
Yeah. Bray could have been. Yeah. Bray could have been it. There's a couple of ways you could have. You could have brought Bray to take the championship belt off Seth Rollins. There's a couple of things you could have done with Bray, and it's just sad that we'll never get to see that play out. We'll never get to see his, how the Uncle Howdy stuff plays out. Maybe he had it written down somewhere, and maybe some, WWE just does these great documentaries and stuff like that. So maybe sometime down the line we'll find out some of the things that never came to light as far as Bray Wyatt, the scene, and where his character wanted to go.
Honestly, I feel like Bray was such an important person in just the foundation of what WWE represents in wrestling that he should be placed on a pedestal as far as, keeping him in the forefront, keeping his memory alive within the company, part of the intro,
Definitely part of the intro.
still showcased as one of the important legends in this game, because if people growing up in the 80s and people watching wrestling in the 90s, if they had to emulate their favorite stars, it would have been Rock, Stone Cold, Hogan, HBK. In this generation, it's Bray Wyatt. There's a couple of people you can mention, but he's in that top 5, top 10 of all around character. I'm not talking about just athletic ability, just all around, because he was an athlete himself too.
Yeah.
Half of these wrestlers are like ex-football players or some type of thing like that. So, don't let the size fool you. That man, like we said earlier, was a tank with a Ferrari engine.
Right.
So, it's
just sad.
like
it's just sad.
I keep trailing off of my train of thought, because it's like, how can we? That promo that I played, honestly, it helped me put it in perspective last night, and that's why I played it today, because that kind of snapped me out of feeling sad. And it's like, he knew we appreciated him. He knew what he meant, and that's a gratification that not a lot of wrestlers have, or when at the end of their careers they can say, like, yes, my career was one of those, like I was the top, the fans are look at Ric Flair, 70 something years old. Everyone knows Ric Flair, from your babies to your grandfather.
Right.
Everyone knows Ric
Flair.
And he was one of them. Everyone knew he was special from the jump.
Yeah.
But earlier you said, what was some of your matches that was like your favorite matches? And honestly, I feel like what brought this podcast together was me and you working in the same place. You walk in on me seeing the broken Matt Hardy stuff.
I was going to mention that.
Right?
Yeah.
I feel like Bray Wyatt's story integrating with Matt Hardy, that was one of, outside of his cult, outside of the Fiend, his stuff, the leader of worlds.
The leader of worlds, yeah.
That was the tag team name, right? Him and Matt Hardy became such a great tag team.
Yeah.
Tag team champions. They brought, you said Bray Wyatt and versus John Cena was a great cinematic match, but the actual deletion match that he had against Bray Wyatt was pretty great too. And I felt like that whole storyline between them was a standout. Right now we have a lot of friendship storylines going on. AEW guys, MJF and Adam Cole doing this friendship thing. We had the Kevin Owens and Jericho a few years back. But Matt Hardy and Bray Wyatt doing the friendship thing, it was unique. Even though that's a storyline that always kind of gets repeated through history, it was unique because those two versions of characters coming together. So and it led to another like different incarnation of the cult. Bray Wyatt was precursor to the Fiend. That definitely stood out, and I feel like it needed to be mentioned because you could have messed up Matt Hardy and that broken character, Woken, for copyright for copyright reasons. You could have really messed up, and I think Bray Wyatt, like I said, everyone usually comes out in the better end dealing with him, and it was perfect for Matt. Not having Jeff to be able to do the full, House Hardy storyline in the WWE at that time. Bray Wyatt was the perfect person until Jeff eventually did come back. But I feel like that was a standout storyline. What
Man,
other things stand out to you as far as matches or segments or just anything
when
career
the
wise?
when the theme first came, I'll never forget that, and I knew it. Finn Balor was standing in the ring, and like the lights would start to slowly go out, and I knew immediately. I was
For
like,
weeks,
"The Fiend is
right?
here."
He was doing. They
For
were doing
weeks,
that for
he
weeks.
was. I remember in the summertime, it was so. Some people just, it was too outlandish for people. You know, he came in with the big red sweater, the big Mister Rogers kind of smile, and
Yo,
just really
when that
just
first
weird.
debuted, everybody was like, "What the
What
fuck is going
is this?
on? What is Bray Wyatt doing?" And then the smart fans were kind of like,
This is
"This is some
something deeper.
diabolical shit."
It was mad sinister. It was
You
super
know,
sinister because you can see it, and I feel like I was one of the guys that just seen it from the beginning. I was like, yo, this shit is gonna be something crazy. And then when he debuted that night, I remember
because it
the
was
lights slowly going out. It was
the
so good.
vignettes throughout the weeks were like slow building, so like they got
Mm-hmm.
darker as you got
Mm-hmm.
into the segments, and it got more deranged. You see the symbols, you start seeing the Huskus, the pig, and you know he had all these crazy characters. We were seeing Rambling Rabbit die every week.
Right,
You
right,
know,
right, right.
we
And the
had
way WWE did it was cool too, because they were like planning things in the background and stuff like that. I mean, this is the second comeback, but like even in his first one with the Fiend, like there will be things in the background that you
yeah,
just have to catch. You know what I'm
yeah.
saying? So they did a
You see
great
the
job with
puppet.
slowly building up.
You see the puppet in the middle of a segment, and
Mm-hmm.
that was one of the things that we keep talking about, this creative genius of Bray Wyatt. You know, the only other person I can mention in the history that probably had the fans as interested, conspiracy theories left and right,
Mm-hmm.
actually engaged on social media, who the hell is gonna be, trying to pick out the clues. The only other person was Chris Jericho to me, with his Save Us
Oh
Y2J
yeah, yeah,
Matrix Code thing going on.
yeah,
And Bray's done that a few times. The things with the
yeah,
puppets, that was one example, but the most recent with this current this last iteration of Bray Wyatt, he had like another version of like the Matrix with the follow the white rabbit. It wasn't
yeah,
Matrix
yeah.
Code, but every week you're people are trying to follow the white rabbit. It'll lead to a picture. The picture leads to a or they'll have like a scan code.
Yeah, QR code. Yep.
You can QR code, you scan the QR code, send you to a link of an image. The image has hidden messages in it that are
Yeah,
cluing to his Bray Wyatt. So it was just fun to be a fan
it was.
when Bray Wyatt was on TV. And this is why it's hitting the community so hard. Like earlier today, I was listening to Busted Open. Shout out to Bully and Dave LaGreca. I love that show. Um, you know, Dave was crying on there. And I feel like it brought tears to my eyes listening to it. I was driving back um from Jersey, and just listening to him is like, damn, this is how I felt. Like this, I don't know this man directly. We don't know him directly,
Mm-hmm.
but the way that he communicated to us and
Yeah.
presented his life, and you could see the passion in every word and every move and every, you know, everything he gave 110%. And that's why I
Mm-hmm.
think when
Mm-hmm.
things went kind of sour storyline wise, it hurt him a lot outside of everything he was doing
Yeah.
in his personal life or going through in his personal life, you
He
know.
put he
But
put so much in, he put so much into those storylines, into those characters. And those characters should have been, should have lived forever. I mean, they will live forever now. But as far as
I don't think
storylines,
I arguably, correct me if I'm wrong. Those are people out there, people listening in the comments. Let me know who else had that much fan engagement outside of him and Chris Jericho in history. That people are literally learning art. He was literally sending artwork, like Roman cathedral art. Like
right?
it was everything, man. It was
Yeah,
punk rock on your TV. You know,
yeah. It was amazing. That team match when he first debuted against Finn Balor, that was an amazing match. The match that he had with Bryan Danielson, which, you know, because Bryan Danielson's always going to make you, he's always going to make you wrestle. He's always going to make you work. I love the trios matches that he have with the Wyatt family versus the Shield, the Wyatt family versus
New
the
Day.
New Day. Those are just, whew, man, those are some classic things. I just really wish Bray was able to. I wish he had a chance.
Mentioning the Wyatts versus the Shield, we can even argue to say the Shield wouldn't have been the Shield if it wasn't for the Wyatts.
They needed them. Yeah, those two needed each other. Those two were coming up.
Those two teams propped each other up in a moment in history where there was a vacuum for stables. There was a vacuum for tag teams. Even, you know, to this day, we still have the effects of not many tag teams. There's a few stables, Judgment Day, Bloodline. They're hinting towards Karrion Kross maybe being a part of starting his own stable. So we do have that. But back then, it was a vacuum.
Yeah.
A complete vacuum for stables.
It was a different WWE back then. They was the only game in town, and they was kind of just, you know, sometimes they throw stuff at the wall and it not stick. So yeah, the Shield and, like you said, the Wyatt family, they really tag team. Look at all the stars that came out of that. You got WWE champions, Universal World Heavyweight champions, tag team. You know, those six really went on and really made stars of themselves, and those matches really helped.
Not only that, him being the leader of the Wyatt family, Rowan and Harper, people probably wouldn't have even appreciated or loved Brody Lee as much as they did if it wasn't for Bray being the leader of that group and being the mouthpiece. Because I love Brody, but he didn't get to spread his wings until AEW.
And that got cut short. That got cut short.
You know, rest in peace, Brody Lee. It did get cut short. You know, and that time in the Wyatt family is the bulk of what we can say was Brody.
Right.
You know,
even though it was a different character, a lot of what Mr. Brody Lee became in AEW came from the Wyatt family. Even though they're two different characters, you got a cult following guy versus basically kind of like a mob-esque boss, but it still had a lot of the same mojo. It had a lot of the
Dark
same
Order
foundation.
did start off as kind of like a
cult,
culty kind of thing, and then they just became funny.
That is still some of the best BTE stuff. Period. When Mr. Brody Lee coming in, throwing papers in people's face, and then immediately telling them to clean it up, is some of the best stuff. Shout out.
Yeah, definitely go see that. AEW is actually on Fight TV now. They have their whole library on there for people that don't know, so you can actually go back and check it now.
Funny stuff.
But you know, even look at Eric Rowan. Sadly, what has Eric Rowan been able to accomplish outside of the Wyatt family? Not knocking Eric Rowan, all my respect to him, but Bray helped give us the best of Rowan.
Absolutely.
And you know, Braun Strowman, outside of his WWE Championship run, which, sorry to say, in my opinion, was kind of lackluster.
They pulled the trigger way too late.
Way too late. They did way too much with him. But we wouldn't have gotten Braun Strowman if it wasn't for the Wyatt family. Because what was Bray doing before? He was in Adam Rose's party.
Wasn't he
like the rabbit or the big?
He was just a
like
big
some
guy,
big dude in the background, you know. So
right.
You know, Bray brought I keep emphasizing on that. Bray brought everyone up around him. Yeah. And it's just the proof is in the history. You know, you could go back and see it for yourself. Like, it's sad to think that it's capped. That's it. Like, you know, I have a hobby. I go back. I watch people's whole careers. I'm so sad that it's done. Like, we'll never get it again.
Especially if a guy young. I mean, you know, he started. I mean, you know, you can argue this if you want, but I mean, he started a lot of good stuff. I mean, you know, after Seth Rollins went against the Fiend, he went on this down spiral. But what came out of that is the laughing, crazy suit wearing. Oh, this is the best version of Seth Rollins that we've got. That started with that loss with him beating the Fiend back then. even though they had the idea for it, the start of the tribal chief starts with him coming in, spearing the Fiend and Braun Strowman. It starts right there.
Daniel
You know what I'm
Bryan's
saying?
Daniel Bryan's
Becoming the world
champion
champion. The
champion
world
of the
champion.
earth.
Oh my gosh, which is personally from me being a vegetarian, that is one. I mean, Daniel Bryan was already one of my favorite wrestlers, but to able to add the real life belief with that, for me, that was my favorite version of Daniel Bryan. When that
Too.
start with after the Fiend.
Outside of the yes and no, because I loved it. But
Yeah,
agreed.
yeah,
Agreed.
that was oh good shit, pal. You know what I'm saying? We got. I mean, you can argue this. That might have been the best cinematic match. I mean, I really did like the Boneyard match with Taker and AJ Styles, but that Firehouse match with John Cena, that was like a love letter to pro wrestling. You know what I'm saying? Like
All
that
the
might have
fans that
been
wanted to see Cena turn heel finally
see
got to see
everything.
him NWO out.
It was super meta. You know, the good shit pal with Vince McMahon. It was just like it was really good. And I'm pretty sure Bray Wyatt like had a good part of writing most of that stuff. So I mean, this is just a genius that we lost. A former world champion, a husband, a dad, third generation superstar. It's a really big loss for the entire wrestling community to lose somebody like this. And he's only I have to emphasize this, he was only 36 years young. He had at least another 7 years of prime time in ring action in him. And
it's
fortunately we
unfortunate,
won't get that.
but I think the lesson as fans that we gotta learn from this is sometimes we have to stop thinking from a fan's perspective and really stop and appreciate what we're getting, what these guys are doing. And you know, Kayfabe Avenue, we try to emphasize on the respect of wrestling, respecting the kayfabe, and part of that is also respecting these people and what they do, what they give to us. They destroy themselves every day. They work more nights than any sports in the world.
Right.
They travel to more places than any sports in the world. You know, falling down every day, and when the body's not supposed to be falling down like that, the body's not made to be taking that impact. We have to stop, you know, judging these people based on what character they're playing, and sometimes sit back and appreciate them as just human beings. And that one of the biggest things coming out of this is just the outpouring of love that I'm seeing online from everybody. So many wrestlers come out. You know, I didn't even know that him and Natalia were pretty much raised together.
Yeah. Oh yeah, because both of them being in the business. Yeah, that makes sense.
No, but even as kids, fathers working together, they were around each other. So I didn't even know that. And Natalia put a good story out about that. We had The Rock thanking him for the house. You know, the time that they actually crossed paths in the WWE. You know, so many people, legends, you know, up and comers, all up and down the ranks. You know, even Matt Hardy's kid, man, devastated him.
Oh yeah,
Bray Wyatt was.
You're right.
You know, Bray Wyatt was his favorite wrestler. After that deletion match he had with Matt, he gifted Maxwell the actual lantern that he used, a couple of props, you know. So kids of all ages, adults, you know, this is one of those that I don't think we can just move past instantly. You know, this is gonna hurt for a long time because you know, in wrestling, this is like losing Kobe again. In my eyes, you know, because we still have our big legends. We still have Hulk Hogan. We still have Ric Flair. We still have The Rock, Stone Cold, Triple H. All our Attitude guys, for the most part, are still around. They're still kicking. They're still. To have Bray Wyatt gone at 36, man, is terrible loss for everyone. But you know, we could go on and on for forever talking about Bray Wyatt, and you know, Kayfabe Avenue was honored to actually be able to do a show for Bray Wyatt. I know I probably could speak for both of us on that sentiment. It's been an honor to watch him. And, you know, I want to just say thank you to Bray Wyatt, his family, condolences to them. and condolences to the kids, you know. But your father
Yeah,
was love, your husband was love, your brother, your son. You know, we appreciated Bray Wyatt. I think that's universal. I think we can all agree on that.
yeah, absolutely. Wish we could have seen more. I would have loved to see the Fiend come back. I would have loved to, see Randy Orton come back and him and Randy Orton have one more match. There's so many, I had the pleasure to be at that WrestleMania to, sounds weird to say the death of the Fiend. I've seen Bray Wyatt in a couple of house shows that we've been to, some SmackDown, seen him in some house shows. So I've seen Bray Wyatt live a couple of times. Like I said, what always stood out to me was the connection he had with the fans, how he always stopped, no matter how sweaty, how tired he was. He stopped, he signed those autographs, he took those pictures for those little kids because he knew how much that meant to him. And it's just really sad from being a wrestling fan and just from a human being, 36 years old, a husband, a dad,
And the good thing is, above
third
all,
generation
they
superstar.
keep iterating how much of a good human being he was.
Facts.
And out of
Everybody,
everything we
everybody.
said, that's probably the most important thing.
Facts.
But
And he seemed like it. He really did seem like it.
yeah.
Yeah.
But I think that wraps us up for today for this episode. We could do this all day, but
We can.
this has been Mr. Richie Moon, Kayfabe AJ, Kayfabe Avenue. You can find us on all streaming platforms, Apple, Spotify, everywhere you get your podcasts. Follow us on YouTube at Kayfabe Avenue. And rest in peace to Bray Wyatt, man.
Rest in peace to Bray Wyatt.
That's the bottom line. Why? Because old Stone Cold said so. Thank you very much, you son of a bitch.